Thank you very much for this great welcoming. So let me start with my presentation. Thank you very much for mentioning my authors as well and for mentioning our institutions. Indeed, this research was conducted by a whole research group in collaboration with different institutions, right? So talking about reading, I would like to emphasize that reading is a complex cognitive skill that implies and involves both processing of visual information as well as processing of linguistic information. And regarding linguistic information, different researchers tend to believe that the main linguistic processing is presented by phonological processing and orthographic processing, whereas there is a huge debate what type of those processing, what type of processing types, let's say, contributes the most, depending on different factors, depending on languages and age of children, etc. So our research question was interests us the most is how do phonological and orthographic processing skills, as well as age of children, influence reading fluency in Russian-speaking children. It should be also underlined that all the studies mentioned here on the slide, they were predominantly conducted on European languages, and this question on Russian language is rather understudied. However, there is still a great research conducted by our colleagues, Rakhlin and her colleagues as well in 2019. It's a really impressive study where you might see on the slide this impressive number of participants, children aged between 7 and 14 years old, and the number of participants is 1,344. Our colleagues indeed investigated the same question: what type of processing influences reading in Russian? It means in Cyrillic script, right? And the main findings were that phonological processing in Russian does not contribute directly to reading in Russian, right? Whether orthographic processing is indeed of primary importance for reading fluency in Russian-speaking children. We want to point out that the study conducted by our colleagues and our study has a major methodological difference, which is the method of measuring phonological processing. In the study of our colleagues, they have used a task, a pseudo-word repetition, whereas like 1 year later, in a study conducted by our colleague as well, in Zdorova and her colleagues in 2020, it was emphasized that complex phonological tasks, they predict reading much better, and they predict reading rather than simpler tasks like pseudo-word repetition. So going to our methodology, we have collected data from 117 Russian monolingual children. All of them were school-aged, and they were aged from 6 years old till 12 years old. The mean age was 9, and standard deviation is 1.6. None of the children were diagnosed with any speech pathologies, and their nonverbal intelligence was also measured and was controlled by the test of Raven matrices. And after this test on Raven matrices, all of the children performed 3 behavioral tests that are of our primary interest, right? The first test was aimed at measuring reading fluency, as we considered as a number of correctly read words per minute, right? This test was developed by Kornev in 1997 and is considered a standardized assessment tool for measuring reading fluency in Russian. And the procedure was as follows: just children were given a text printed on a piece of paper, and they had to read this text at least for 1 minute, right? The second test was changing a sound in a pseudo word. And as I've already mentioned, this assessment tool was developed by Zdorova and her colleagues in 2019. This test contained 24 stimuli in total, and we measured accuracy in those tests. So the procedure looked as follows. There is an instruction in a tablet. All the children were performing this task on a tablet. For example, change the sound V to the sound V. Mi, mi, va. So a stimulus was mi, mi, va, a pseudo word which does not exist in Russian. And the sound opposition measured here was non-palatalized v and palatalized v And the expected response, and the correct one would be me, me, via. And finally, the test rapid automatized naming was implemented in order to measure orthographic processing. This test was developed by Denkel and Trudel in 1974, and it looks, as you might see on the screen, it is a 50-digit matrix of figures 2, 4, 6, 7, and 9. And what we measured was time spent on this task completion, on naming the words, figures, from left to right and from up to bottom. So the results we received, all the data that we collected was analyzed in R by means of linear regression, and you see the packages implemented for this analysis. Our dependent variable was reading speed. I again remind you, it was number of words read per minute, but only correctly read words, right? And the factors that we analyzed were age, phonological processing label, and orthographic processing label. So our results, as you might see on the slide, we see that the first finding is that indeed reading speed, or what we also call here reading fluency, depends on age. The older a child is, the faster a child reads, right? This dependency was significant in our data. Measuring the second factor, dependency on label of phonological processing, demonstrated that indeed this dependency is significant as well. The better a child performs this complex task of complex phonological processing, changing a sound in a pseudo word, the better his or her reading is. And finally, orthographic processing also has proven itself as a significant factor, as a predictor of reading in Russian-speaking children. Here, it's not surprising that the line looks differently in comparison to the previous slides, right? Because we measured here time completion. It means the closer this parameter on time completion is to the left side, it means the faster a child was performing this task. So it means the faster, in this case, the better orthographic processing and the faster reading as well. So we would like to outline and to speculate on the results we collected in the following way. First of all, I remind you the research question that what's in the study, that we wanted to see how phonological and orthographic processing skills, as well as age, influence reading fluency in Russian-speaking children. And what we've got is that all the three factors mentioned, age, phonological processing, and orthographic processing, indeed predict reading fluency in Russian-speaking children. So, as I think was quite clear from the results as well, higher level of phonological processing speeds up reading, faster performance in rapid automatized naming tasks speeded up reading, and also above phonological processing, and older children read faster than younger ones, which actually is not surprising, right, but still worth mentioning. Thank you very much for listening. I would appreciate your answers, and I'm happy to answer them. And also using the moment of sharing our research with such a great number of participants of the conference, I would like to mention that we're still recruiting participants and we continue this research. So in case you know families with Russian monolingual children aged from 6 to 12 years and who live in Moscow, as the data collected here in Moscow in our lab, please share this info about your research. You might just take a picture of the QR code on the screen and share this info with your relatives, friends, or in case you're the family, please, you're welcome. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nina. So questions, please. Let me see if we have any. Yuri Shtarov has the question.
Yes, thank you very much for a very interesting presentation. I'm sorry if I missed this, but I understood you collected all the lots of variables about these kids, including nonverbal intellect and others. Did any other variables, the ones that you didn't present in your results, correlate with the reading skill, such as nonverbal IQ and all perhaps others?
Okay, Yuri, thank you very much for your question. So Indeed, I've mentioned that the test used to measure the nonverbal intelligence of children was Raven matrices, right? So we did not use it as a factor, or even we did not balance children based on the test. We only controlled it, right? That all the children perform within the boundaries of the norm in those Raven matrices,
which
right?
wouldn't stop you from trying to correlate it. Just a comment.
Yes, you're right as well. Yes, thank you very much. Regarding other measurements, no, we did not measure intelligence as such, well, with any other tests. What we're doing right now, which is also part of this research, we measure also whether children have the whether their hearing is all right or not, it's a norm or not. And in this result, what we've demonstrated, all of them were also within the norm. They heard, their hearing is not impaired. I just didn't mention this, probably just, I don't know, did not consider it as this that important here. And other tests, basically, no. So far, we have not implemented other tools.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your question.
Thank you. Any more, please?
Can I maybe add to Nina's answer to Yuri's question?
Please, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Yes.
In a previous study, actually, we looked at whether nonverbal intelligence influences reading, and it does. So
thank you for your commentary, Anastasiya, because this was just what I thought of maybe adding a bit, because we'll have a flash presentation tonight. Ekaterina Andrushenko will present this data. We also had a couple of studies with the same results, but we tested not children, but adults. And it looks like this nonverbal intelligence, which is actually not just nonverbal, but it is G factor, contributes more to reading comprehension in our case than any other relevant factors, surprisingly. But this is just the teaser of the.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.